Well, welcome back to the show. We're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to become a guide. I think that's one of the big questions I get asked all the time when I'm on the water. Folks are, how do you become a guide? How does this work? What do you have to do? And here in North Dakota, we've got a few rules, that we got to follow and make sure we've got everything in place. The first and foremost is, your guide license. You got to, fill out some paperwork and pay your guide fee and kind of go through that and make sure that you got all your paperwork in check. And then certainly most guides carry a pretty good insurance policy. You need that, obviously, to take care of anything that may happen while you're on the water, and certainly don't want anything to go wrong, but you want to be covered. That's a couple of things that we have to do, but again, it's pretty interesting to look at it. You got to go through a lot of different things. You got to make sure you've got first aid and different things in your boat. You got to have the right flotation with throw cushions and life jackets and horns and whistles and have all that stuff in check. Fire extinguishers are certainly pretty important. You got to have one of them in there. And then last but not least, you got to have your boat inspected. So, Game and Fish will go through your boat and make sure that you've got everything you need. Make sure everything's in, fine working operation and nothing can go wrong once you're out on the water. And, that's pretty important as well. And again, you want to make sure that the equipment's all working properly and, all your lights and things of that nature. And, again, I appreciate when I bring my boat in and have them go through it and make sure that everything works. It kind of keeps me on my toes too, and I think that's good. But again, guiding's not for everybody. It's certainly a stressful adventure at sometimes. I mean, you got the conditions you got to worry about with wind and rain and storms. You've got different times of year with who knows, maybe a spawn, maybe a tournament was just in town. You just got a lot of different things that are going on that can kind of alter, how you go about your business. And then you got to look at the skill level of the clientele that you get in your boat. I mean, some folks are not real versed with the rod and reel, so you got to find ways for them to catch fish. That's fairly simple and not very complicated. And as we all know, that's not always easy to do. So, it's not for everybody. I mean, you got to put a lot of time in. You got to do your homework. You got to have good equipment. Make sure that, everything is in great working, conditions. So when they do get out, they're not having problems with that. And, that makes the experience all of that much better, I guess would be a lack of a better term. I mean, you don't want to bring somebody out and all of a sudden they're, fighting with a reel that's not reeling properly or maybe the line's frayed, or there's just a lot of little details you got to take care of and pay attention to. And it's just one of those things that if you do dot your I's and cross your T's, it'll make that outing that much better for whoever you get in your boat. And like I said earlier in the program, nothing brings more excitement to me is when I get youngsters in the boat. I've got some cool video of a few young kids that I've been able to take out on the water and they catch a fish, and I'll tell you what, it's so exciting to me to watch these youngsters, just absolutely go crazy. They just absolutely love reeling in fish, and it don't matter what type of fish it is. All they really care about is, and I always say it in my boat, is bending rods. And if you can bend rods, that's the most important. It doesn't matter if it's a panfish or a perch or a carp or whatever. As long as they're catching fish, they're having fun and they're hooked for life. And I cannot stress that enough. I just think that we need to expose and get more and more and more youth out on the water, and out in the field and whatever to experience that and see if you can't get more of those youngsters hooked on this. And I know for a fact I've left some pretty lasting impressions on some young kids that I've had in my boat, and nothing better when you hear that they're out fishing, off a dock or riding their bike down to a creek or whatever. And I just think that that's the cool part about it. And so if you can expose them, get them hooked, get them out in the outdoors, that's key. That is just absolute key to me. So again, it's guiding isn't for everybody, but if you feel like that's something that you want to do, and you've been putting a lot of time in on the water and kind of honed your skills, certainly feel free to get involved in it. And again, if it's something that you can do to expose more youngsters, that is, to me, that is number one. So If that's something that you think that is, get your interest, have at it, get after it, and have fun with it, and do a good job. But we're going to break again to recognize our sponsors, and we'll come back and kind of close out the program. We're going to have a fishing report on the program here, and then we'll also just talk a little bit about where we're at and what's coming up on the program. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.